about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So for those couples that struggle to give birth or struggle with infertility, we have some amazing advancements as it pertains to helping people give birth by in vitro fertilization, in vivo, all artificial insemination. There's surrogate moms. Well, finding a surrogate, meaning somebody who will carry your baby, is tough. I mean, I've offered, friends of mine to surrogate their baby. Like if I have friends who are gay couples, and I'm like, I'll do it. And my husband's like, really? You're going to get pregnant again? I was like, why not? It's for them. This is a good cause. But there's not a lot of people out there that would offer 9 months of surrogacy, go through that, lose their breasts. That was probably one of the, I had no stretch marks. I didn't care about hemorrhoids, but I did not like what happened to my breasts. Boy, did pregnancy change that. But it's difficult to find a surrogate. So China has been working on an answer, and they have developed a robot that could surrogate the pregnancy, a robot. So if humans don't want to do it, the robot could. I'm a little worried that now we have a younger generation of individuals going, I can't give birth, I can't get pregnant, I can't go through the pain, I just can't do it, I won't do it. And I wonder if doctors are going to talk them into, well, look, just get pregnant, and then what we'll do, or we'll help you get pregnant, and then you don't even have to carry the baby. We'll just hire a robot or rent out a robot to do all the work for you. I disagree with that. I think the bonding that you have is, I wouldn't do this, just for poops and giggles. But for those individuals who really want to have a child, this is some cool stuff. So Dr. Zhang Qifeng from the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore is leading the project. It's the world's first pregnancy robot, a humanoid machine that is designed to carry the fetus for 10 months. Using an artificial womb. Now, I know some of you are saying, wait a second. The gestational period for humans is 9 months. If China can't get that right, listen, you have to overshoot. So we need the robot to be able to go over the 9 months. If not, who knows what happens at the 9-month mark, especially for those of us that may go a week or two over. So when you see 10 months, it's not a typo. They want to make sure that the baby still has, an oven to cook in, or bake in, okay? So they say, unlike an incubator that supports premature babies, this robot is going to replicate the entire gestational process from conception to delivery. I wonder if it's also going to throw up. They say the artificial womb will be filled with amniotic fluid, allowing the fetus to grow. There'll be nutrients traveling through a hose like the umbilical cord. The robot will also interact with humans. Oh, I yelled at my husband a lot when I was pregnant. I was like, what the hell? I was actually handled the pregnancy really, really well, because when I'm in pain or I'm grumpy, I get really quiet. So my husband said I was even quieter than I usually am. But my guess is the robot would not be that quiet. So they say in 2017, researchers at the Children's Hospital in Philly successfully allowed a premature lamb to grow in a biobag artificial womb. Over 4 weeks, the lamb developed wool, showing that gestation outside the mother's body was possible. So now Dr. Zhang's team is using and integrating this technology into a humanoid robot capable of sustaining a full pregnancy. Now, I'm not exactly sure how the fertilization and implantation will occur. My guess is, they'll do it obviously in a lab. But the team thinks that this is going to be priced below 100,000 won, or $14,000 US. That considering the cost of in vitro fertilization and helping people carry the pregnancy to term and all the interventions, this could be pretty cool. And again, nothing replicates the mom and the baby being in the mom and the warmth of the mom and hearing the mom and us singing and talking to dad and, South Park in the background. It's so funny. I watched a lot of South Park when I was in residency. And then when I was pregnant, and I was really worried, I'm like, I wonder if my kids are going to come out really liking South Park. And they do. They do. In fact, my sons still sing the songs, and they do get an affinity towards that. With my first son, I liked fried foods like chicken fingers and French fries. With my second son, I liked a lot more vegetables and sushi. That's what I was craving. And here we are. The one kid loves his chicken fingers and French fries. The other one doesn't really eat a lot of that, but he likes his sushi and vegetables. So pretty interesting. These are things you can't replicate. But they do believe this world's first pregnancy robot is going to launch within a year. And so, and then the giving birth, boy, that definitely will eliminate that. I love the fact that we can help individuals and help the human species propagate. I think it's important to salvage and prevent our extinction. But what I don't want is somebody saying, you know what, if I don't have to go through childbirth pain, I'll pay the 14 grand. I don't know if I would do that. If you told me, Daliah, you don't have to go through birth, we're going to have somebody else do that for you. All you have to do is give us the eggs. I still wouldn't do it. Just that whole process of giving birth. And maybe it's because the pain I went through. Remember, I was in labor for 5 days with my first and about 4.5 with my second. The pain I went through, I could always use as a guilt trip. I mean, I could always tell them about the tearing, right, and about all the pain I went through. And, so, I get to use that as a get out of jail card for a lot of things. So I don't think I would give that up. But the whole experience, knowing that I gave birth, because, I think we're animals at our core. And being able to give birth and breastfeed, and I love that. I understand we're able to get tech involved, but for people who can't have a baby, this is fantastic. But if you can't have a baby and you can do it safely, it's such a great experience. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
Hi, guys. Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
right back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So many of you have come to Vegas. You know, some of you I've seen. Can't see all of you, and I appreciate you guys letting me know you're in town or you're not in town. Part of the reason why I will not meet up with you when you come into town, it's not because I think you're a predator. It's not because I'm scared of you. Most of my listeners are pretty damn cool. In fact, all of them are pretty damn cool. But the main reason why I'm not going to meet up with you for a drink or for a meal is because it's too expensive. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am afraid to go anywhere near any of the tourist spots because of how ridiculously priced things are. And I hate to say that because I've basically grown up in Las Vegas. I was born in LA, Southern California. That got too expensive for my family, so they moved to Arizona, and then they went back and forth between Phoenix and Vegas. So I basically have grown up in three areas, this little kind of Bermuda Triangle, the Southwest. And I have seen how Vegas has changed. Now, you used to dress up. People weren't necessarily dressed up in the 80s because that's when I remember Las Vegas. But before that, people would dress up. You would go to a nice show, meal. You know, there would be boobies, so kids couldn't come to a lot of the shows. Kids really didn't come to Vegas. And then they built Circus and some other MGM had a amusement park, and then they tried to make it more kid friendly because they realized that the average family has kids and they'll be able to get more people to come if it's more family friendly. But they had buffets like the Circus buffet for $1.99 for breakfast, and then $2.99 for lunch, and $3.99 or $4.99 for dinner, and it was doable. I mean, it was. You were able to feed your family if you wanted to go on vacation. The rooms, $25 a night, $35 a night. And then after the Runnin' Rebels, and I really credit the Runnin' Rebels at UNLV, Vegas took a different turn. You started to have more corporations come in. We started to be recognized as we have universities, we have sports, and damn, do we have sports. Making it to the Final Four 2 years in a row under Coach Jerry Tarkanian. We had some great athletes. Really, Stacey Augmon, Larry Johnson, Moses Scurry, David Rice. Oh, gosh, I can't name them all, but they were all so good. But we started to go in the direction of we're going to now be resorts. And even though we had the Circus and we had resorts, the prices started to take a different turn. And we were charging almost as much as Hawaii hotel prices. And you're like, yeah, but we're not in Hawaii. Come on. Well, then they amplified the pool. They amplified the experience to make it more resort-like. In fact, there was a campaign to stop calling it the Las Vegas Strip, the strip of hotels. There was a campaign to start calling it the Resort Corridor, which still some people call, but for most of us locals, it's still the Strip. But things start to get expensive. So when I was at college, I could go to the Maxim Hotel and get 99-cent steak and eggs. In fact, I would wait to eat until 11 o'clock at night because then it was cheaper. Don't ask. You could get 99-cent shrimp cocktail. I mean, you could get food cheap even in the 90s. Well, that didn't pay. See, it used to pay. The model for these hotels is you would gamble. So if we could get you in for the cheap food, you would gamble. Well, a lot of us had resilience to that, and I didn't have money to gamble. I only had 99 cents for my steak and eggs at 11 o'clock at night. So I wouldn't gamble. And eventually they're like, if these low food prices aren't working for that, let's start, let's become a place where you can have fine dining. And even though we do have steakhouses and things like that, that just took a whole different turn. And we attracted Gordon Ramsay and Wolfgang Puck and Bobby Flay and all these other restaurants and Michelin star chefs. And so Vegas started to become also a place where you had Broadway shows, Lion King, Jersey Boys. And it became the entertainment capital of the world. And I'm very proud of how it's become in terms of that. Not to mention the sports. You got the Raiders, the Golden Knights, the Aces, the Athletics are coming from the previous Oakland A's. The Silver Knights, the Aviators. So now we're becoming also a sports mecca, which is exciting. The problem is don't forget about us, right? Middle America, people that are not rich. We're not Hollywood. And if I want to enjoy a game, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I had been since the 90s saying we got to build a stadium. We got to have the Super Bowl here. We got to bring an NFL team. I have been supporting that. I have been advocating for it. Well, we finally get it. And I want to go to a game, and the tickets are hundreds of dollars. I was just looking up the November 17th Raiders-Cowboy game. The cheapest seats, $656 a pop. And the average seat going for $1,000. Really? I'm not going to spend that much. It's better to watch the game on TV. Super Bowl, that really ticked me off. Where we have Super Bowl, and the prices are so ridiculous. I mean, you got Hollywood to all come. But for those of us locals that advocated for it, that our blood, sweat, and tears went into the construction of it, went into the taxes, went into, you know how many times I supported these hotels, with patronism and advertising and all that, and you can't, it's untouchable. The seat prices were untouchable. And you used to in the 80s and 90s have local days. No. My son and his girlfriend wanted to go goofy golfing, miniature golf, and Mandalay Bay had it's called Swingers, but it's a golf club. No, not for swingers, right? And it was gorgeous inside, but if it wasn't for the employee discount, that would have been really, really expensive. And for only 8 holes, and then the alcohol was expensive, the food was expensive, so we decided to go to the food court and eat instead. But they make the prices now so ridiculous that even Vegas people don't want to frequent their own resorts. Remember I told you, do a staycation. You can get a locals rate. You need a vacation, but you don't have the time or money to travel. Then you could take out a room, right, in the hotel. You could enjoy the pool, spa day, whatever, great food. It's too expensive to do that. And we are seeing in the news, in fact, this one is from Daily Mail. So even in Europe, they're poop talking Vegas about our price gouging and how expensive we've gotten. And as much as I want to say Vegas is great, come here. I'm hearing some of the drinks are $40 a pop. You try to do shots with your friends, you have to drop at least $100, not to mention the tip. By the way, when we went miniature golfing, goofy golfing, we they asked for a tip up front, and I'm like, "Why are you giving us a caddy?" It's the tipping, the price point. It's getting ridiculous. And look, I wait a table, so I like to tip, but it's too much. And if Las Vegas doesn't get their act together, we are not going to be attracting the average American family. Now, another reason why, so the reason why the prices are high, because people keep asking, why is it costing this much? Why is a steak $85? Hey, I mean, you could get the steak at a grocery store for $7. Why am I paying these prices? Well, a few reasons. One is because people are paying them. You get people coming in from California, they're on vacation, they're on a business expense, and so they'll drop $1,500 for dinner with their friends. They'll spend it. They'll say, well, Vegas, baby. So one, there's people that are spending it. And so the prices will still keep going up. But tourism starting to go down. It's not going to last very long. Number two is post-COVID, these hotels had problems getting people in. And so they had a lot of discounts and deals to get people in. And then rather than, people dressing up and going to the dinner and things like that, I remember walking around and there was like boom boxes and music. And I like music and I like that. But it was, there were people hanging out because they want to come out, but they weren't spending money. And so they want to attract people who are going to spend money. And they don't want people just hanging out in their air conditioning in there. And so they need to figure out how to get money so that people aren't just hanging out, looking at the view, looking at and so it's now, you have to pay for parking. This paid for parking is really ticking me off. I think all Las Vegas locals shouldn't have to pay for parking. But a trip to Las Vegas cannot cost the same as a trip to Hawaii. And in some cases, it's costing more. That's got to stop. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So while the media was bashing Trump and what happened on Friday in terms of him meeting with Putin, which I think anybody with a brain would be like, okay, this is the closest we've gotten to somebody mediating this war and trying to put an end to it. The follow-up meeting 3 days later with Zelensky and world leaders, kind of reinforced the fact that liberal media needs to maybe shut the hell up and report the news appropriately, rather than saying, well, he hastily threw this together and he's trying to fix prior mistakes. And it's like, okay, he's trying to get a war to stop. I didn't see anybody else try and do that. Let's, give the guy a little credit. Even if you don't want to give President Trump credit, don't be criticizing this. Just report the news. I find that so frustrating that I think MSNBC is now called MS Now. MSNBC is changing its name, and you have CNBC and CNN, and you have these liberal outlets acting like, trying to find how to report this news with a slant against Trump. Just report the news. Just say there were multiple world leaders that came to the White House. Trump met with Zelensky. They're searching for an end to the 3.5-year war. They were joined by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, French President Emmanuel Macron, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, NATO Secretary Mark Rutte. They sat down, had a meeting. Secretary of State was there, Marco Rubio, and they met. And now Trump is going to work to try to have a trilateral meeting with Zelensky and Putin. End it there. No. It's all about, well, how can we make this look bad? Well, we didn't get a lot of details from the press. Of course you're not going to get details. If Trump is meeting with Putin, then he's meeting with Zelensky, he would be faulted for going on the record and getting behind a microphone and saying, well, this is what Putin really wants. This is what Zelensky wants. And so that's not for us to hash out and express our opinion. These are very delicate talks. And I'm actually surprised we got the transparency and the access that we did. That was pretty cool. Instead, people are turning it into a bad thing. They aren't telling us anything about what they said and what. Well, of course not. These are. I mean, it's usually behind closed doors as it is. You want transparency? Trump's giving you transparency. You're getting to see it all, but you're still complaining. But where there's some sticking points is Ukraine wants NATO security. If Ukraine cannot be, shall we say, embraced or enveloped and engulfed into NATO, and you need, I believe, unilateral approval, unanimous approval for that, then there's guarantees that the European Union leaders want, or the European leaders want to provide, similar to an Article 5. Now, Trump will not, commit to troops because I think he knows that Putin will want to take advantage again. But Ukraine, and understandably so, wants to make sure they don't get invaded again. And so if they can't be a part of NATO, what sort of agreement can they have with European leaders such that they will protect Ukraine? So that might be a little sticky point. Another sticking point, even though I think it's absolutely appropriate for Vladimir Zelensky to ask that. Another sticking point is, what land does Putin get to keep? And is he going to want to take more? I mean, for Putin to stop the war, he's going to want to get more than he already took. And is that the Donetsk region or the Donbass region, or what does he want? And is Ukraine going to want to give that up? So now Trump is trying to set up a meeting with Putin. Japan is also ready to participate in security guarantees for Ukraine, which is pretty cool. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said his country will participate in guaranteeing Ukraine's security. Didn't really go into too much details on what that would involve, but they said they will play a quote-unquote appropriate role. He said Japan is not in the phase where we can provide details, but we'll be ready to provide some support. NATO military leaders are now meeting Wednesday on Ukraine following this White House meeting. I mean, things are moving quickly. I'm really blown away that nobody is commenting on how the government can move fast. Okay? This isn't, Trump taking a trip or going back to Delaware. He's moving. And now NATO's military committee is going to be, looking at diplomatic efforts to secure peace in Ukraine. So right now, the peacekeeping is kind of a sticky point. And Americans, we're already getting grumpy with all the money we've had to send to Ukraine, even though I've supported it. A lot of us have supported it initially. How much longer is this going to go on for? And if we don't see an end to sight, we need to figure out how to stop this war. Plus, we don't want to see any more people die. But we also don't want our soldiers getting involved. The U.S. is still the biggest individual contributor, according to CNN, in the world, even though their share dropped from 52% to 47%. We're still one of the biggest contributors, and Europe is scrambling to try to help comprise we're the country providing the most money. And I'm proud that we've done that, but eventually it has to end. So when will Putin and Zelensky meet? When is that going to happen? So they believe this could happen within weeks. Putin, though I don't think is very happy about meeting, from what I understand, he's being very reluctant. And even if he's not reluctant and he really wants to meet, I think some people took his trip to Alaska as he really needs something for him to make that trip, even though coming to Alaska from Russia isn't that long a trip for him. But people perceive that as, okay, he's in trouble. He's losing people. He's in trouble. But if he goes back to Russia, he could be killed if he doesn't win this war or he takes losses. So I don't think he's in any hurry. He gets to stay alive and still stay in power while the war is going on. So there's got to be some huge incentive for him to stop, because his plan right now is waiting for other countries to say, you know what, we're done giving money to Ukraine. What was so powerful about yesterday was Vladimir Zelensky being joined and Trump being joined by all those other European leaders shows Russia that even if the U.S. starts to cut back their aid, there's other countries that have been pledging their support. And look at Japan even. These other countries don't want this war. This war doesn't help. So it would be nice to see more unity among these other countries, just like with the hostages Hamas has. Like to see more unity with that. I think other countries could step up. Do other countries really want a war in the Middle East? Do they really want innocent people being raped, attacked, and held hostage in Hamas? The war is going to continue until the hostages come home or get released. And unfortunately, many of them have already been killed. So when you look at the Ukrainian death toll, the Russian death toll, you're looking at what Hamas did in Israel. I'd like to see other countries step up. I'd like to see other countries say, look, we're going to get involved. They're not going to get involved with Israel and Gaza, but they might be getting involved, or they might really put their money where their mouth is as it pertains to Ukraine and Russia. So Russia needs some pressure, and Putin needs some assurances that he's not going to be overthrown. So I think the European leaders, once they see they have to pay more, which was a brilliant move on Trump's part, they might be also kind of working with Zelensky to concede a little bit more of the land to get this war to end. The 1877 Doc Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive this stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1877 Dr. Daliah, 1877 DOCDALI. So while Europe and other countries have kind of slowed down on the COVID-19 vaccine and on which kids should get it, I think in the UK, if there are kids at higher clinical risk, they recommend giving the shot at the age of 6 months. But in terms of healthy kids, it's really up to the parents. Definitely voluntary. A lot of countries have kind of relaxed on that in terms of it being mandated for schools. So when RFK Jr. took over the HHS, He said, let's rethink what we're doing to pregnant women and young kids and maybe stop the routine vaccination of COVID-19. If they want it, they can have it. If the doctor thinks it's necessary or the healthcare provider thinks it's necessary. But rather than it being required for healthy, low-risk patients, let's maybe hold off. And let's study it more. I agree with that. Let's study them more. If somebody wants them or they need them or they're high risk, we have them and you could use them. But in terms of blanketly recommending it, that could lead us down a slippery slope. Especially since the school vaccination program mirrors what the CDC recommends. And we're already having parents pull their kids out of school because of the vaccines. And I told you that mandating the COVID vaccine was going to prompt parents to say, you know what, I'm done with it all. And that really kills me because I think we have some amazing vaccines that could really help kids. And I love that we have a robust vaccination program. It's just at some point, parents are saying these are too many. And I don't trust the government. And I want to know that anything I'm injecting into my healthy child is safe and worth any risks. So while RFK Jr. is starting to evolve that guidance, the American Academy of Pediatrics doesn't like it. Their recommendations are to continue to giving COVID-19 shots to infants and young children. According to CNN Health, they say the American Academy of Pediatrics updated recommendations differs from recent recommendations of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices of the CDC, which was overhauled this year and replaced with individuals who have a history of spreading vaccine misinformation. That's what the AAP said. Current CDC recommendations for the COVID-19 vaccine is for children aged 6 months to 17 years, and they say they should be based on shared clinical decision making. Now, their recommendations are more explicit. They said all children should get it, ages 6 through 23 months, unless they're allergic to it. So they want all 6-month-olds getting COVID vaccination. I don't know if I agree with that. They also recommend a single dose of the vaccine if you're 2 years old through 18 years old, if you're high risk, residents of long-term care facilities, or have never been vaccinated against COVID, or if you live in a household with people who are immunocompromised or high risk for COVID-19. And they say the vaccine should be available for this age group even if they are not in these risk groups. But it's interesting that they want it mandated for babies. Now, seeing this is going, and I worried because I respect the American Academy of Pediatrics. I respect the AAFP, the American Academy of Family Physicians, but gosh, do they get political. And it really ticks me off when I see medicine and medical people get political. You're allowed to have any political affiliation you want to. You're allowed to feel any way you want to. But in terms of guidance for patients, you got to leave the politics out of it. If a parent wants their child to get the vaccine, they could get it. But to have it routine when we don't have high-risk COVID per se, and we're talking about healthy kids. We're not talking about kids who are high risk. We're talking about healthy individuals. Does a healthy 6-month-old need an mRNA vaccine? Did we study that long enough to see what introducing mRNA would do to their immune system? Now, relatively, it's safe. We haven't heard, and I'm hoping the transparency was there, a lot of babies and infants have many side effects from these vaccines. But then again, we didn't give a lot of infants. Many parents said no. So we don't have the numbers. I don't know how many millions of infants got the COVID vaccine. When it was mandated, we might have had more. But the Vaccine Integrity Project is a group outside of public health experts have been independently reviewing data on vaccines because they want to look at vaccine misinformation. They want to look at, policy. But my issue is as soon as I hear misinformation, I think of, all of the misinformation that people said was out there has now been proven as the right information. So saying COVID leaked from a lab, that was considered misinformation and conspiracy theory. Even the CIA, the Department of Energy, multiple groups have said, it's probably likely. For those of us that said there are side effects that you could get from the mRNA vaccine, as with anything, that's not misinformation. Everything has side effects. Saying it's 100% safe, that's misinformation, but that's not the misinformation they're talking about. They're talking about those of us saying, now look, there could be side effects. So, these individuals like that doctor that went into ITP, lost his platelets, ended up having a brain hemorrhage and dying. That's a serious side effect. Myocarditis, those are serious side effects. Now, COVID could also cause myocarditis and brain bleeds and strokes. But we can't say the vaccines are 100% safe. But when I would talk about, certain, like people going into cardiac arrest, some of the fainting and the arrhythmias that were being reported, that was being accused of misinformation. We saw people walk outside of getting the shot and faint, go syncopal. And I'm assuming it's because there was something that had to do with their heart rate and their blood pressure. Could have been the anxiety of the shot. Who knows? But these are things that are not misinformation. They happened. Wearing a dirty mask and reusing your mask is not protecting you against COVID. That wasn't misinformation. That was true. Standing 6 feet away from somebody else to protect you from COVID. You know how many times we said that was ridiculous? And we were accused of misinformation. And then finally studies are like, if you're standing 6 feet away, you can still get COVID. So don't be telling me that, with the misinformation police are on the side of truth when everything you said that was misinformation actually was true. And if you're really in the medical world, you allow there to be hypotheses and theories. It's very dangerous if a doctor says, we're going to do what we did in the 1960s because it's misinformation to think it doesn't work. But we're not going to be using 2025 medicine and technology. We're allowed to question, is this better? Is this a better way to do it? Is this safer? Are there fewer side effects? We would still be doing open hysterectomies and open appendectomies if it wasn't for somebody going, I wonder if we could do this laparoscopically using a camera and being able to work through the camera and protect the patients, have less bleeding, shorter healing times, and better outcomes. Did that first person who suggests that be accused of misinformation? So let's look a little deeper. We're allowed to do that in medicine. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.